And we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the HackTheBox Twitch channel, or if you're watching this after the fact, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tyler, and it is an honor to have you hanging out with me this evening or this day, whatever time zone you're in, whatever time you're watching this. It truly is an honor to have you taking the time, hang out with me, learn with me, and probably get frustrated together. So here is what we are going to do for today's stream. We are just going to dive into HackTheBox, and I think we might choose a HackTheBox path. I really haven't looked at the HackTheBox path until just a few minutes ago, and they look really cool. So I'll share my screen. Also, I'll just kind of do an AMA. So if you guys have any questions about pen testing or cybersecurity or careers or IT in general, ask away over in the Twitch chat. I'll keep my eyes on the chat as well. And so if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them, at least from my perspective. Otherwise, we will just dig into a machine. And my goal is that we'll work through it together. And because it's HackTheBox, I cannot do active machines on stream. It's against the rules. So we will take a retired machine. But the benefit of the retired machines is there are walkthroughs. So if we get truly stuck, we will look at a walkthrough just until we're no longer stuck, and then we'll keep moving through it. I don't think walkthroughs are cheating or bad. Use them to learn, and then once you've learned that, keep moving on. At the end of the day, you do not know what you don't know. So with that being said, guys, let me go ahead and share my screen. Here we go, and get Twitch chat pulled up. What is up, IT and Bob, the Flame 937, Donkey, the Taurus, GP Chandra, and anyone else watching. Good to have you guys here. Really is fun to jump on here and work through things together. So on HackTheBox, there are tracks, which I think are kind of like the learning pathways on Try Hack Me, except for they're not guided pathways, right? They're different machines that are together. I did do one of these tracks. I think there's an AD track, isn't there? When I was studying for the OSCP, I remember doing an Active Directory track or series of machines along those lines. So I've looked at these before, but it's been a while. So if any of you know if any of these are really good, let me know. I've heard about Crest CRT. Isn't that like that's a type of cert, I believe. Oh, it looks like I've already done some of it. Complete this track to unlock a message from Crest. Track provides a gamified hands-on experience to prepare for the Crest CRT exam. Enroll in this customized track and master the relevant syllabi areas covered in the registered tester examination. I'm actually just curious about what this is. I don't plan on taking the examination. Let's say verse OSCP. Just curious how these compare. I recently earned the OSCP cert, begin to work towards a CREST registered tester. I've got both. I initially got OSCP, and then you go for CRT equivalency. See details here. Essentially, you have to do the CREST CPSA exam and then pay whatever to get that without the need. The exam is rubbish. It's really broad in terms of its content. Not many study materials, and the technology in the syllabi is outdated. It's multiple choice. Oh, I think you have to do that before you do this. Okay. And this page isn't found. Is an international not-for-profit membership body representing the global cybersecurity industry. Our goal is to help create. What's the exam like? Oh, okay, so Stevens 1438 said CRT is usually one we need to work in government or security level roles in the UK. Okay. Well, let's just do the path and see what we can learn from it. I don't think it's certified respiratory therapists. And I believe, like, I'm trying to think, even in the pen testing world in the US, there's certain organizations that ask, like, if your pen testers are CREST certified, I believe. And because I've read about this in the past a little bit, but oh well, I just want to understand what it was. So this is a pathway with machines that must prepare you for this. So you can see I have done a few of these because these are, like, Active is from the AD hacking series, so is Forest. I don't remember if Bastion is either, but I think this is on the OSCP. I think it's similar, though, to the OSCP. At least the machines look similar. So let's just dive into this one. Ooh, it's a bit hard. Or is it medium? Okay. I never go off these reviews. I always look at the reviews here. These are a lot more accurate. And so this one's a bit hard, which means I'm probably going to get stuck, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and click it. And actually, I don't know if I have the VPN on this VM. Let me go ahead and just download my connection. So we'll play machines, which are offline, and open VPN. That all looks good. You want to connect to the VPN first, just in case we have to generate one. Oh, it looks like I already had one. Otherwise, you have to like relaunch the machine and stuff. So let's go to CD to downloads, sudo open VPN. Or it was a lab, wasn't it? All right. We're on the VPN. Beautiful. And let's go ahead and launch the second machine called remote. We won't look at too much information on it. We'll just go ahead and spawn it. And while our machine spawns, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen just momentarily as I get my notes pulled up. Sometimes it opens the wrong OneNote, and I want to make sure it's on my actual hacking OneNote and not my personal OneNote, which it is. So we are good to go. I'll go back to sharing my screen. And let's start a new machine here. This one's called remote, and we'll drop the IP in there. Looking over the chat, Donkey said, holy, HackTheBox looks completely different since I last ever played on it. Yeah, and IT and Bob said, do the second one in the top row. I think that's the one I'm doing. As Steven says, oh, I already read that. You have us, you good, sweet. It's very gamified now. I love it, and the UI continues to get more beautiful. Yeah, I really do love the HackTheBox design. The green and black and just the colors. The color scheme is really nice. Let's go ahead and copy this IP and let's throw it into our notes. And as usual, we'll start out with a very simple mmap scan and see what ports are going to be open on here. So let's go ahead and do sudo mousepad to Etsy hosts. Type in our password and add this to Etsy hosts just to save our time a little bit. So we'll drop the IP there. We'll do remote.hackthebox like that. Control S to save, and let's see if we can ping it. Is it a Windows machine? Is that why I can't ping it? Whoops. Is it Windows? Oh, it is Windows. Okay, so for those of you who might be new, the reason I asked if is it a Windows machine, that may have been confusing to you. Windows machines, Windows Defender, I believe it's Windows Defender, by default will ignore ping. So even though the machine's alive, you will not be able to ping it, which also means when you're in an nmap scan against it, you need to do a specific switch called it's a dash capital P lowercase n, which means ignore host discovery. In other words, just assume the host is alive because it's going to ignore our ping. So that was my first sign to me that, hey, we might be, either my VPN's broken or we're dealing with a Windows machine, and I was correct. It is a Windows machine. So we'll be able to break out our Windows hacking and see how good we are. So we'll do nmap. I always like to do a scan of all the ports. Sometimes on these CTFs, they have a weird service running on a port that's not common, and if you just do a regular nmap scan, you won't be able to see it. We'll do remote.hackthebox -pn to ignore host discovery and -v. So I'm not doing any enumeration yet of the ports, like what is running on them. I just want to see what ports are open. Right away, if we didn't already know it's a Windows box, we would know it now. We can see SMBs running. We have what appears to be FTP. We have HTTP here. We have some services up here, which usually have to do with different Windows services. Likely aren't ones that are going to be useful to us, at least for pen testing purposes. I have a feeling these ports right here are what's going to be most interesting to us when I initially glance at this. Donkey said, wait, is -p the same as -p1? Yep, that is correct. So it's a shorthand way of doing that. It just means scan all the ports. And we have some other ports open. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy this real quickly and drop it into like Notepad here, just so I can see the ports, and we'll just manually do this. We'll do nmap-p, and we'll start hitting some of these ports while our scan finishes. The reason I don't do this on all the ports is it just takes way longer. I don't need to hit those 49,000 ports, I don't think. I don't think I'll regret that. Maybe I will. Remote.hackthebox. So let me explain what I'm doing here. I'm specifying the individual ports to save time. -A means run an aggressive scan. It means it's going to run like all the enumeration scripts against each one of these ports so we can figure out what's running, what version of things are running, and it is a little bit digging for us, and that's what we're going to add to our note. So -A means an aggressive scan. In like a pen test, this is okay. In a red team engagement where you're trying to be quiet, an aggressive scan's likely to get picked up. But in a pen test, the goal isn't to be quiet. The goal is to get as much information as you can. And usually the client will whitelist your IP so that you're not being blocked by their firewall. That's the difference between a pen test and like a red team engagement. Pen tests are short, usually 5 days. Red team engagements can be months. It can include like physical on-site activity as well. But we are going to treat this like a pen test. We'll do an aggressive scan, and then we're going to specify our IP. And because we put in Etsy host as remote.hackthebox, we can do that. And I like to do -V for a verbose scan. You can also save it to an output file. I just like to save it to my notes once the scan is done. And we can see it didn't really discover anything else. These are all WinRM type things, I think. We're not going to enumerate these higher ports. We do see WinRMs running, so we could do evil WinRM if we get some creds. Do I have 2049 on here? Hold on, let me just add that. I said 2049. Is that the only port that I missed? I think so. There we go. What is up, Overgrown Carrot? So what are you working on today? We are just taking a random HackTheBox machine. So we're going through the Crest CRT path here on HackTheBox, and we're doing the remote machine. So you can see it. HackTheBox says easy. Most people say medium or a bit hard, and I think there's a more realistic rating, which means I'm going to get stuck, and it's a Windows machine. So it'll be a good learning experience for all of us. And as usual, if you're new to my stream, I like to work through this together. So feel free, if I miss something, shout it out in chat. If you want me to try something, shout it out in chat. We'd love to hear what you guys have to think about it. And if you've never streamed live, it's hard to explain how much more difficult it is. Like, there's things that if I'm offline, I notice right away and I can solve a box. But then when I'm on stream and trying to like speak as I enumerate, I miss obvious things. So like, feel free to call me out when I'm missing obvious things. Miami Oiler said, what do you think of people that think red team is only physical? You know, and there's kind of this confusion between red teaming and pen testing. Pen testing is on the red team side of things, red team being like offensive security, but there is a big difference between a pen test and a red team engagement. A pen test, for example, like I was sharing before, is usually very short. So we're looking at, 5 days on average, maybe 10 days for an internal network. Looks like our scan's done. We'll check this out in a little bit. For an internal network. And with the pen test, you're not trying to be quiet. You're generally not trying to evade detection because it's so time limited. You're just trying to get as many vulnerabilities out of the client's infrastructure that you can, so you can write a report that helps them improve their security posture, right? So it's short, it's noisy, everyone knows what's going on. A red team engagement, on the other hand, seeks to emulate a real threat actor. It'll often be a month, 2 months, even 3 months or longer, and it will often include a physical on-site pen test, in addition to a lot of enumeration, OSINT, doing research into the companies, getting a list of usernames, phishing emails, sometimes even creating fake LinkedIn profiles to connect with people, doing everything you can to emulate a real threat actor. And often most of the people in the org do not know that it's happening. You're trying to be sneaky, you're trying to evade the blue team, and it's a lot longer, it takes a lot more experience. It's not something I'm at the level of doing at all. I did do the red team capstone and try hack me, but I don't do real red team engagements yet. I do pen tests, mainly just web app pen tests and external pen tests and APIs. But even at that stuff, guys, I'm a noob. I have not been doing it very long. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's go ahead and grab all this information that we have here, and I'll show you guys a little bit of how I organize my notes as I'm starting a machine. So we have OneNote here, and this is what I use. And I had some comments on YouTube like, how'd you make your OneNote look so cool? I don't know, guys, but there's 2 versions of OneNote. Make sure you're using the right version of OneNote. I think there's like a desktop version, and I don't know. Use the right version of OneNote and put it in the dark theme. I have literally not done any other plugins or add-ons to my OneNote. This is like vanilla OneNote, just with dark theme. but I do think there's a couple different versions of OneNote. We have RPC bind here. We probably don't need all this stuff open, although some of this stuff, as we pen test RPC, we'll see some of this stuff that might be able to be exploited, so we will leave all that. It all might be useful. Here's SMB down there. And I always like to grab my host script results for SMB and add it to the SMB ports just so it's a little more organized. We have more RPC here, so we could add, let's go ahead and just take this and throw it there. And then we have this HTTP API. Probably not going to be helpful to us, but we'll also add that to our notes. So then what I do is we have this page right here, and then I like to make sub pages. So if we make a sub page here, and we'll grab like FTP right here, I can already see anonymous FTP login allowed, so we'll definitely take a look at that. And I'll do FTP and the port number just to keep things organized, and I'll drop my notes in there. And then we'll do that for each service that is running. And then as we enumerate each one of those services, we'll be able to keep our notes organized, and we will add all of our notes for each service down here on the sub pages, just so we can quickly glance at what services are running and be able to see, hey, what might we be missing, what do we still need to do as we enumerate the machine. RPC 111 and 2049, we'll say. And SMB. And this is kind of the boring part, guys, but notes, good notes are key, especially for those of you prepping for something like the OSCP. If I did not take good notes, I would have failed the OSCP, but I was able to pass it on my first attempt in 8 hours, to be exact. And actually, I was stuck for the first 5 hours, so I really passed the OSCP in 3 hours once I was unstuck on one specific part. But a big part of that was good notes, especially on the enumeration side of it. Okay, let me glance over the chat, see if I miss anything. Overgrown Carrot said this is a fun one. It's an easy, though, and a lot of fun. I'm sure it won't be easy for me. Donkey said, my knowledge is way out of date. The Flame said, in my company, we separate pen testing and network vulnerability assessment, pen testing being application only. So when you say network vulnerability assessment, is that just like a Nessus scan turned into a report? So when we do, we don't even offer like vulnerability assessment unless that's actual hands-on. So any of the pen testing we do, at least at Rhino where I work, it's all hands-on, very technical. What I love about Rhino, but it's also the only pen testing company I've worked at, so I don't know how other companies do it, but like the vast majority of my time is spent hands-on technical work. I have very little meetings I have to attend, and very little even like documentation type stuff. It's all really hacking and then creating an awesome report for the client. But we'll use Nessus and like Burp Active Scanner, but we verify anything that's on there. And honestly, most of the cool things we find are all just found manually poking around at stuff. Okay, let's dive into what might be running on here. So I noticed we have FTP, and let's just begin with FTP. For those of you who might be new, FTP is a way of sharing files. And one of the first things you want to check with FTP is anonymous FTP login allowed? Sometimes Nmap's aggressive scan will check for us and it will let us know, but even if it doesn't say that, we still do want to check, like, is it running? We can see the system here and it's Microsoft FTP. So let's begin with that. Let's go ahead and just clear this. What's this one? That's that. Okay. FTP anonymous at, you already see from a previous machine I did when I was testing this, but remote.hackthebox. Anything for your password, I just typed anon, and you can see we are connected. And it looks like not much is here. So then one question I have is, can we add files to this? So let's go ahead and cd to my HackTheBox folder. Let's make directory called remote, cd remote, echo test, test.txt like that. And now let's go ahead and do that anonymous access again and see if we can upload to this. I think it's put. Access is denied. So the reason I test that is sometimes what you'll see, not really in the real world, I don't think, but I've seen this on a few machines, is FTP will be open and you can write to it, and it's often, not often, once again, just in CTFs, you'll see that it is the backend system for a web server. So then you can use FTP to upload like a .aspx shell, and then you can get a shell on the backend machine. What we can see here is that anonymous access is allowed, but it doesn't seem to be anything in here. Data connection reopen, transfer starting, transfer complete, entry in extended passive mode. I don't see anything here, but if we get access, if we get creds, we'll want to revisit this, because maybe with creds, we can see some other things. So let's go ahead and just document what we found so far on here. So we can say this: confirmed anonymous access is allowed. No files are listed as anon, and cannot upload files. No write permissions. So that's all I'm going to do with FTP. We can say we have properly enumerated FTP for now, but if we find creds, we'll want to come back to it. We see that we have a web server running here on port 80, some Acme widgets, get head post options. Anytime we see a web server, I like to make a little to-do list. And I could go back to some of my other notes. Let's see. Let's look at the machine that I hate. Oh, did I not make a to-do list? All right, I'll show you guys my to-do list, and I'll just make it up as I go, but there's always a chance I'll forget something. So we can use something like GoBuster for directory enumeration, GoBuster for vhost enumeration, check robots.txt, check source code, browse website, look for username enumeration, run nicto. Those are the main basic things that we will do just as we initially attack this web server and see what information that we can find. So I'm going to pull this over and let's kick off some of these scans. So we can exit out of FTP, and I don't remember. Oh, sweet. I have it from a previous one. So it looks like we do dir-u, we specify the URL, and then we specify our word list. So we can do that. Whoops. Remote.HackTheBox. -w, user share, word list, dir buster. I always like the medium list. And let's see if that works. We'll call this, we'll just call this dirb like that so we know. And let's do one also for vhosts. Virtual hosts would be different websites essentially using the same IP. And I have my context from before. So it looks like we do -u, we specify the URL, and then we're going to have to filter the length, but we don't know how to filter the length until we see what it returns. So let's go ahead and -u. It would be remote.hackthebox-w, user, share. Do I have seclists? There we go. And we can do like discovery, DNS. What do we have? We'll just do maybe 20,000 there. It's not giving us back anything yet, so we can't really exclude length, but we'll just do vhosts. And Nicto is really easy. Nicto is a very basic web vulnerability scanner that might be helpful, might not, but it's easy to run, so I always just run it anyways. What else did I say in my to-do list? The rest of the stuff is on the actual website, so let's go ahead and navigate over to the website. And let me go back to the chat. So Bottleneck said, I'm considering getting to HackTheBox. The UI looks great. It is really good. I will just say, like, the downside of HackTheBox, if you approach it with the wrong attitude, is it will give you imposter syndrome, because you'll see boxes that are rated as easy. At least I see boxes that are rated as easy, and I'm like, yo, how is this an easy box? And I get really stuck on it. And it honestly really discouraged me when I was studying for the OSCP, because I was like, dude, I can't solve these easy boxes without looking at a walkthrough. How the heck am I going to do the OSCP? But I did. And the easy boxes in HackTheBox are more difficult than the OSCP, but they teach you really good technique. And what I like about having a VIP membership, so first you have kind of two different paths in HackTheBox. You have active machines, which you solve for points and rankings and those kinds of things. And then you have retired machines, which were formerly active machines but are now retired. Active machines, you're not allowed to like stream live. There's not supposed to be walkthroughs available. I'm sure you can find them. Retired machines all have an official walkthrough. They often have an IPsec video walkthrough as well in case you get really stuck, and you're able to stream them live as well. So I treat HackTheBox like a mix between getting frustrated, but I'll also look at a walkthrough and treat it a little bit like try hack me. You do not know what you don't know, and I'll often learn a new attack path that I didn't know before. MadSec said, did you do Proving Ground boxes for OSCP prep or just HackTheBox? Yep, I did do Proving Ground boxes. And from my perspective, Proving Ground is actually the best place for OSCP prep. For those of you who may not know what he's asking about, Proving Grounds is actually like a HackTheBox type environment created by OffSec themselves. Now, there's two different kinds of Proving Grounds. I may have this wrong. There's one Proving Grounds. It may not be called Proving Grounds, but it's just VulnHub machines that they host, but they have a paid subscription of Proving Grounds, which I think is $20 a month. I just did it for 1 month right before my exam, and those are machines created by OffSec, including some retired OSCP machines, and those are the machines that by far were closest to what I encountered on the exam. So if you are studying for the OSCP, I would encourage you to get a Proving Ground subscription. It is well worth your time and well worth your money. A. Stevens says, what's this vhost enumeration? Well, I probably can't explain it as well as others, and I don't want to say it wrong, so let's look together. So what is a virtual host? A vhost refers to the practice of running more than one website, such as Company 1 and Company 2, on a single machine. So in other words, they're sharing the same IP. There are mainly two types of virtual hosts, IP-based virtual hosts. In an IP-based virtual host, we have different IPs for every website. And name-based virtual hosts, several websites are hosted on the same IP. And this is what you'll often encounter on a CTF. Mostly this type is widely and preferred in order to preserve IP space. It's going to explain how it actually works. But basically, you have two different URLs sharing the same IP, but pointing to different websites. And you can only access the website if you know the vhost. So you'll often see vhost enumeration on CTFs and even in the real world. Especially when I do like an external pen test, vhost enumeration is a big thing that I'll do to see if there's any other web servers running on the client's IPs or the client's infrastructure or network. Okay, let's go to the website. Thank you, Carrot, for explaining the Proving Grounds part of it. The Blackzillion said, are the other certifications from OffSec worth? I think you mean, are they worth it? No idea. I don't have them. I only have the OSCP. I don't have the other certs. So maybe those of you in the chat who have them, sound off on whether or not you think the other ones are worth it. Okay, so here is the website, and let's just look through this slowly and see what we can find. So welcome to Acme. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Willie E. Coyote, genius. I am not selling anything, nor am I working my way through college. Okay. And it appears we have a blog. Yeah, a blog. Okay. So I wonder if that is going to be running WordPress or something like that. Let's go and open that in a tab. We have a products page. We got a biker jacket, a unicorn, a ping pong ball, and a jumpsuit. What happens if I click one? Okay, so you can actually go to these pages. We have a 1-day return policy. You'll need to make up your mind fast. Fantastic. Buying doesn't do anything, but we do have products. And you can see when we do product, it specifies it here. So might be something interesting. Let's see people. Okay, so here's what I was talking about when it came to users enumeration via a website. We can assume that these are employees. I wonder if this is a guy who made the box since he has Twitter and Instagram. But we can assume these are employees. Sometimes in the image name, you'll have the name of the employee. Here we don't, but we do see a directory that might be interesting in checking out. What if I go all the way back? Okay. What if I go back to this? Okay, so we can't access the directory, but we have some usernames. If I go to view page source, see if there's anything interesting just right here on this page. We have the image URLs being brought to. And of course, we have the different employees. We have the JavaScript that's running. Yeah, let's go ahead and copy down this information. Can I just like copy these guys and I'll format it a little bit? Oh, it formatted it nice for us. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and copy these and we'll throw them in a file and we'll call it usernames. HackTheBox, what are we? Remote. And we'll nano usernames.txt. Copy it in. And now we could use, Twitter, Instagram. We could use, there's a script, I don't remember what it's called, but it will create all the different ways these usernames could be used in the system. And so we'll probably go back to that if we don't find anything else. But we do have some, what would likely be valid usernames. It might be like j.brewer or jbrewer or whatever it is, however they do it. But there's a little Python script that will sort that for us. And we might look into that once we get to that point, once we get to a spot where we can use usernames. What up, Snorks, though? Good to have you here, my friend. Let's go to About Us. Ooh la la. Oh, there was a video before, but it's unavailable. About this starter kit, to-do list for the starter kit. What's this? Okay. Here's what could be improved in the starter kit so far. So we have some technology information here. HunterBot said, I've been finding some bugs recently, gotten 1K in bounty so far. Dude, congratulations. That's awesome. I'm thinking of doing a HackTheBox machine from the attack vectors I found. You should. That's really, really cool. Congratulations. All right, here's what could be improved in the starter kit so far. For version 1, use a custom grid editor for testimonials. Integrated analytics on pages, called the action button in the grid with tag manager integration, macro for fetching products with friendly grid preview, design review. So these are things that we need to do for VNAC. So here are things that they have done. We have swap text with uploaded logo. Okay, nicer pickers so they can't spell the products and employees. Custom list view for products and employees, discuss template on blog posts, 404 template. If this is running WordPress and we get access, we can get a shell with the 404 template. Member login, register profile, forgot password, update default styling of grid header, on a blog post, share social, tweet this, Facebook this. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Contact. Umbraco Forms is required to render this form. It's a breeze to install. All you have to do is go to the Umbraco Forms section in the back office and click install. That's it. Okay. Ooh, and we have a login portal here. Let's go ahead and take a screenshot of this. This is going to be something that I think will be interesting for us. And we'll go here and we'll go to our HTTP. And let's just say we found login form. There's that. And I'm just going to drop the direct URL here just so it's easier to go back to if we need to. So let's go ahead and grab this. So it's Umbraco, login, false, return path. You might even get an open redirect. Not going to be for the machine, but something that I would look for a client if we do an open redirect or even a bug bounty on a login might actually be useful depending on how the cookies and stuff are being stored. But happy Tubular Tuesday. Username. Your username is use your email, enter your password, and we have a forgotten password link. Does this actually work? Okay. What I want to do is let's go ahead and open up Burp just so we can see exactly what's going on in the background here. And we'll just use the Burp browser so we don't get confused. Here's my Trimento. We could make a new project on disk. Let's go ahead and do that. Make it feel a little more like an engagement. And let's change this because our precious hacker eyes don't like light mode. User interface, display, 16, dark, much better, proxy, open browser. There we go. Let me throw that over. Here we go. So just curious when this loads, if it's loading anything interesting. So we're just doing a GET request from Breako forward. That's interesting. So it's just loading everything from this path. What if we go back here? Bottleneck said, Burt Pro was so good, said my license expired at the start of this year. It is cool. We probably won't use any of the Pro features on this. I'm not going to do like an active scan. Intruder's really nice on the Pro version because it's not rate limited, but even in real engagements, the vast majority of what I do can be done with the community edition. Just because often I'm really just using it because I like to see what requests it's making back to the server and monitoring how things are being done. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can do username enumeration. If we put in a username and a wrong password, will it tell us this user exists? Sometimes you can do that, and on an actual engagement, that's something we'll write up as usually a low or informational saying there's username enumeration, especially if you can script it out. There's no like captcha that stops you, and you can, enumerate valid users. Remember, we have some usernames. So if we go back here, we have this person. And I'm trying to think, if we go to remote.hackthebox, was there like an email format? They're called Acme, so maybe it's Acme, maybe it's on Breako. Let me check out the blog real quick. We have these weird like names here. I just don't know if it's Acme Widgets. I just know what their emails would be. Was there an email on Contact Us maybe? Oh, I just saw intranet as well. GPA Chandra said, as a web app pen tester, do we need to learn JavaScript and PHP or other web languages? You don't need to learn how to fully design web apps, but you should be able to read JavaScript and PHP and understand what it's doing and know exploits for it. So for example, one of the most common questions that you'll get when you're interviewing for a web app pen testing job is about the OWASP top 10. One big thing is like cross-site scripting. So something that I will often find on web apps is stored cross-site scripting. And you'll be asked, like, when it comes to cross-site scripting, what is it? And often it'll be like, well, we're inputting something malicious. But the follow-up question is, well, what are you inputting? Well, the answer is JavaScript. Cross-site scripting is when you're able to store JavaScript on a page, whether it's stored or reflected or DOM-based. There's a few different kinds, but essentially cross-site scripting is you can get JavaScript to execute in the victim user's browser, and if you can store it on the page, like if I could store cross-site scripting somewhere on this page, and every time you went to the page, JavaScript would execute, I could in some ways deface the website because you can use JavaScript to change the colors of the website, and even when you read about website defacing, it's not always I got access to an admin portal. Sometimes a hacker will be able to store cross-site scripting on a page, so every time someone views it, it defaces it for the viewer. It changes the color. It says like Tyler was here, things like that. So you should know how to read code a little bit, understand the flow and function of code, and understand some of the common vulnerabilities, and understand like JavaScript is client side. So anything you do in JavaScript is going to affect the user, whereas PHP is going to be server side. That's how you're going to be able to get like a reverse shell. If you can upload a PHP shell or run PHP code, you can interact not with clients, but with the server and get a callback. So you should understand the difference between client side, server side, and some of that language. Hopefully that answers your question. And know that's coming from a web app pen testing noob. I have not been doing it very long. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Take what's helpful, and if it's not helpful, just ignore me. Intranet. That seems very interesting, right? But it doesn't load anything. Intranet. Okay, so far we have this login page. Oh, shoot. So we do have user enumeration, I think. Because if I do like... Oh, no, it always says login failed for that user. Yeah, so like here would be an example of a very basic cross-site scripting, right? This would just generate an alert. It's not going to work, but sometimes you can see the only reason I tried this. So if this is a real web app, I would actually try this because I saw the input is being reflected back to the user. And if they did not undertake this properly, this input, we could trigger JavaScript. And one thing I'll do first before even doing JavaScript is HTML injection. So that's just like trying to do header and saying, hey, I wonder if this will encode it. Obviously, it's not doing it here, but sometimes you'll see, and you won't see the H1 tags, you'll see actual larger letters that say header, and then you know, hey, it's vulnerable to HTML injection. Maybe it's vulnerable to cross-site scripting. But often you might be dealing with a WAF or something that you have to bypass the WAF. You're URL encoding it. There's a bunch of bypasses online. You run it through Intruder to figure out one that works. That's a lot of just experimentation, which if you enjoy, you'll love pen testing, which I love. What I don't like about CTFs is there's only one way to solve most of them, where in a real pen test, it's just a big attack surface, and you can dig in and learn about new technologies as you work your way through it. So we don't have username enumeration because it responds the same way regardless of the user you enter. I thought maybe we had it because it was saying login failed for user admin, telling us admin existed, but it's saying login failed no matter what is going on. We can very quickly glance at the page source. So we have assets. I wonder if we can access that. External logins URL. Authentication API base URL. Ooh, we have some interesting URLs here. Can we actually access these URLs? That's the question. Anything else that we see? Okay, what if I just go to this path? Okay, so now we have a server error. So these must just be variables, maybe default variables. Maybe if we get access to the server, we'll see these. So here we can see it exists. So look at the difference. We have resource cannot be found on external login, but server variables, we get 401 unauthorized. So that does exist. We just don't have authorization to look at it yet. Let's look at some of these other things. HunterBot said, what I like about CTFs is that you know it's vulnerable. So it's not like the real world where you can just give up and say, maybe it's not vulnerable, let me move on. That's true. What's different, though, between a CTF and a pen test is in a CTF, like the goal is almost always code execution. In a pen test, you may not find like really high vulnerabilities, but every pen test I've done, I found at least some decent vulnerabilities. They may not like be able to exploit the company with them, but it at least helps them improve their security posture. It might be something as simple as an outdated JavaScript library, cross-site scripting, or RCE, but that's a little more rare. But really, in a legit pen test, there's not really rabbit holes. If you find something interesting, you just dig into it because you know, hey, there might be something here. Where in a CTF, it's like there's nothing there. I just wasted 3 hours of my time. And I guess you could look at it differently where we learn something, but yeah. Just want to try each one of these. Ooh, there's a file upload. Ooh, if we can get access, we might be able to bypass some content types and upload files. That'd be cool. Do some file upload bypasses. I doubt there's anything in this JavaScript. So this is some dependency script. Dependency handler. I think we saw this up here. Oh, just like fonts, things like that. And that, of course, just loads that. Okay. Well, we do know there's a login portal. We don't have access to anything there yet. We have this media directory, which I think we already tried to look at, didn't we? Yeah. Requested URL. So you can see that that doesn't exist. Was there anything else in the source that seemed interesting? I don't think so. And one thing we can look at, and I just showing you that Burp Active Scanner isn't usually that awesome. We could look at like, let's see if Burp found anything on this website. So you can see it's doing a live audit. We won't run an actual scan against it, but let's see if it has found anything interesting. And maybe I can explain some of these things that I'd be looking for in a real pen test. So in a real pen test, we have this clear text submission of password. What does this actually look like? Invite user password form, invite step. Hi, invited user, welcome. Oh. There's a invite thing? Oh, we need to look at this a little more. This isn't like, it's not actually sending the password, but what is this? Oh my goodness. Well, that looks juicy, doesn't it? Let's send that to repeater, and we'll look at it in a moment. Let's see what else Burp found. So we have session token in the URL. If that really is a session token being passed, it is something that we want to report to a client. One thing, and kind of a bug bounty tip for you guys, is you'll often see companies use Google Maps on their website to show their location, and they need to pass an API key with that. Well, if the API key isn't scoped properly for that web application, you can reuse their Google API map key. And there's actually a website. Let me see if I can find it. It's a GitHub. Here we go. So, Key Hack shows ways in which a particular API key is found in a bug bounty program can be used to check if they are valid. And you can actually get some bug bounty money with this. So if we go down to, let's see, Google Maps API key. This is a common thing that you'll see, and you can test this, right? So you can go to these and type in where it says key here, you put in the API key that you found, and if it works, you can actually report that as a bounty that their API key isn't properly scoped. Of course, I'm not going to do this on a CTF, but just one thing to keep in mind. We have vulnerable JavaScript dependency. We would write that up for the client. If we can't actually exploit these, because often these vulnerabilities are very specific things, we'll write it up as an informational finding and just let the client know, hey, you should probably check this out. We would report that. Let's see. Clickjacking, we would report this, but we would actually do a proof of concept where you get a very simple iframe, put the website in there, and if you can load the client's website in an iframe, that's called clickjacking, and that can be abused in phishing type emails hosted on a malicious website. We'll report that to a client kind of as an informational or a low vulnerability. Okay, so those are the main things that we see. HunterBot said, thanks for that info. I've actually found several Google Map API keys, but I figured it's intended functionality. Yeah, dude, check it out. A lot of the time it is mapped properly, but that is a really easy bounty you can find. And the reason that matters to a client is if you can reuse their Google API key and other Google Map APIs, you can essentially run up costs on the client, or on this is more bug bounty, but we check it on a pen test as well to let them know about it. Would be a lower informational finding. But on a bug bounty, you can get, $100 or so, maybe even more, depending on the company that you're working for. And y'all can send me 10% of it, and we'll call it good. Okay, let's go back over to repeater and check out that response that we were looking at. So if we jump back over to repeater, if I send this, welcome to Umbraco. Just need to get your username and avatar set up, then you're good to go. So I can't just go to this, can I? It's a GET request, so I might be able to just go to this in my browser. Will it redirect me is my question. So let me just go like this and throw this on the other side. And let's turn on proxy. Oh. Let's not do file. Let's do like that. Ooh. Runtime error. An application occurred on the server. The current custom error setting for this application prevented the details from being viewed remotely. For security reasons, it could, however, be viewed by browsers running in the local server. To enable details of the specific error, so it's saying debug mode isn't on. The current error page you are seeing can be replaced by a custom error page by modifying blah, blah. I was going to think this would be like verbose error, but it's not. Often what I've actually seen in the real world is they'll have debug mode turned on. So if you can trigger an error message, you can often get a stack trace and you can see the backend infrastructure of what is running, which will help you attack the web application better, but it would also be something you report to a client or a bug bounty program to let them know you have an overly verbose error message here that reveals information about your backend infrastructure. But I don't know why this didn't work. If I send this to repeater, what does it do? So it actually errors out. But if we go to this one on repeater, what the heck is the difference? Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. I must have had something wrong about my request. Okay. We were able to access this page. I wonder if we can actually create this. So we can't put in a username. But let's go ahead and grab this information for our notes real quick so we don't run by it. And we'll grab a screenshot of it. Open up OneNote and drop it in there. So I'm just curious, if I type hack smarter 123 is what I'm doing. Confirm new password. Hack smarter 123. Like what? Okay, so that breaks. Username, email, new password. How do I upload a photo? What if I just go here? So this is actually just logging. So this is a dialogue. We have Umbraco views common dialogues login.html. So we seem to need like an invitation. We do forgotten password, doesn't do anything. You can see it's passing the email parameter here. If we send this to repeater, what does the request look like? Okay, so this is we can't use post. If we use get, it doesn't do anything. You can't get, you would send it via post, so that's strange to say the least. And that fails there. Still very interesting how this is set up. And like if this is a real pen test, this is definitely something I report to a client. But there has to be more than what I can see here. Can we just go out to another folder? No. Oh, did you see? Oh, so that's the back end. Hold up. It's this right here. Oh, no. So it's asking that we're doing a GET request to back office. The API authentication is authenticated, and it's saying false. It's checking like, are we an authenticated user? Question is, can we abuse that? I don't see any way to put into the body true. And the authentication might be based on a cookie or a session token. So we can't really give ourselves a session token, but that's an interesting find. Just passing it to the API. Okay. And then this is that placeholder username hint, placeholder password. Okay. Well, let's do a little more digging on this web app. I think we understand a little bit about what is going on here, how it's loading things. Umbraco is an open source content management system. Yep. So we don't know I don't think we know the version that's running. I didn't see any version information, but maybe it's vulnerable. Let's just see what's on here. HunterBot said Umbraco is a well-known CMS. Maybe there's a CVE. Look, dude, we think exactly alike. We have RCE. See if it's authenticated or unauthenticated. Authenticated. Well, just curious how this works. So we are doing a login, which this looks very similar to what's going on. It's passing it the username and the password. It's going to a vulnerable web page here, which it looks like it's just the host and then some visualize ASPX. We're parsing it out. We're getting the view state. Launch the attack. So you're passing it the URL. It's RT, so it's going to be this. We're passing it this data right here. Payload. And the header, filter output, print command output. So if we're able to get access, there's some possible RCE, so we'll keep that in our mind, but we don't have access yet. I think these are all the ones it was talking about. Let's check out a few more CVEs. HunterBot said default creds. It is a good thing to check for. Let's give it a shot. Admin and default. Admin, default. Nah. Oh, test. Once installed, the default username and password of the back office is admin and test. Okay. Just make sure it's not something else. Oh, this is how to reset it. Oh, go to Umbraco. Admin username and the hash password. So that's just like if we actually have access to the SQL database. Apparently, a lot of people forget their Umbraco CMS admin password. There's a whole, it's just SQL query that sets it for you. Amazing. Okay, what's this LFI exploit? Client dependency handler, which we do. Remember, we saw this client dependency handler, where S is the parameter whose value is base 64 encoded string, normally referencing local file paths of client-side resources to minify or concatenate at runtime. The Umbraco framework will reference the handler instead of CSS and JS files directly, as the handler returns a process file contents in its HTTP response. In the above case, the S parameter is that, which allows the private file to be read and displayed from the HTTP response. Besides, if we can read machine key from webconfig, we can even achieve pre-auth RCE and Unbreak 07 and below. Ooh. So it's on this S. Let's just check this out ourselves. So if we go here, I always forget the URL. File a directory not found, but that just may not exist here. And you can see our base 64 encoded here. It's trying to get from the local host the WinINI, which should work. Maybe this isn't vulnerable to this. What if we just go like this? What was it being passed? Was that being? I just want to see how it's actually doing it in runtime. So if we do this, I'm trying to remember where I saw that. Was it in the source code? Right here. Let's do copy link address. Oh, what's going on? Intercept is on, right? Apparently intercept's not on. Okay, well, let's just copy this and go to decoder, decode as base 64. And that doesn't really help us. It's not. Oh, hold up. So we can see what it's doing. It's getting from assets, the Unbreakable client. So it is base 64 encoded. I'll have to look into this a little more. Looking over the chat. It does take the cache file probably. Have you already done a port scan and check for database and potential credits? I have. Is there a pen testing discipline that's more in demand than others? Yep, web app pen testing, by far. If you want to get into pen testing, learn web apps. Even like from being a pen tester, the vast majority of the jobs we get are web app pen testing, usually like 5-day assessments. And so if you become a junior or associate pen tester like me, it's often going to be doing web apps, which I enjoy. I think web apps are fun. Let me go back to that article I was reading. Step 1, decode the file key and validate the type. Which it does all that. Is this an actual CVE? To leak machine key, possibly. To leak the full application path, possibly. If we get the machine key from the web config, we can then force the CMS to deserialize and align objects and lead to RCE. As of Unbreakable V8, it officially abandoned the support of web form. Ooh, and web form is what's causing this, and therefore it will not be vulnerable to deserialization issues caused by machine key. You can still try to read other files that possibly leak other sensitive information, though. However, if you encountered a website running with that, congrats, you can directly trigger the deserialization on the login page or ping page. What? This is just JavaScript. Okay, we need to, I wonder if this is the path that we need to take. Was there an actual CVE with this? Ooh, there's a burp extension? Oh my goodness. A burp extension for testing a Branco dependency handler. Allows you to enter a URL or path in a burp tool, and it auto-base64 encodes the file parameter. Affects all tools except proxy, so useful passing the file. Oh, so it just encodes it. I see. Just kind of reading through this. Sorry, I'm quiet. I'm trying to understand exactly how this is working. I think I understand it. So this is what we tried to do. Spoofing this header. No way. Okay. Well, this is all very interesting. I also don't want to fall down into this if this is a rabbit hole. Either way, we learned some interesting things about how this is base 64 encoding it. There's a few things I'm curious about trying. If we go back to repeater, and we know that this is base 64 encoded, what did it look like? Was this at this one? I want to get the actual normal request here. Oh wait, it was in the source code, wasn't it? So if I take all this and we base 64, host an HTTP server running on port 80. Maybe type my password correctly though. Be a good starting point. Okay, so that doesn't actually reach out and try to connect to my server at all. Interesting. One thing that we could try, so if you pass this to intruder, we can clear this. We can make this our payload right here. So we'll add that. And if we go to payloads, I believe we have, maybe these won't actually be that helpful. We could do local files, Windows, like that. And then we can do payload processing. So actually we can add a rule type and we can say encode, and we want to base64 encode it. So then what it will do is it will take all of our payloads and then base64 encode them. I don't think we want to URL encode these characters. We just want to base64 encode them. And if we go ahead and hit start attack, I think that'll work. So you can see what it's doing is it's taking each one of those payloads and it's base64 encoding it and passing it on the S parameter. So if this worked, we'd be able to see a difference in length. And you can see all of our length are the same. So at least these specific payloads are not successfully getting LFI. It's all getting 404 errors. But that'd be one way to test this with like some file pass. That one person made a burp extension that does this, but you really can just do it with intruder just by adding payload processing. But that doesn't reveal anything to us. And what I want to do, guys, is I want to just, let's pause the web app. Well, I almost guarantee the web app's going to be the path in, but I don't want us to only focus on the web app because I wanted to check SMB. I wanted to see if we had anonymous login on SMB, and maybe that'll give us some hints on how we can get authenticated to the web app. If we can't, then we'll dive back into the web app. We can also check RPC as well, but let's first check SMB. But like I said, it's probably the web app. That seems to be the way we're going to get in. Ooh, hold up. I read about the ping thing. So I take that back. I'm not checking anything else yet. I want to check out this ping page. My goodness. I'm alive. So we're pinging it. Is that all it's doing? It's just saying I'm alive? Okay. Okay. Let's look that up. Actually, you want to do that in Firefox. Oh. Here's a walkthrough. I don't want to look at the walkthrough yet. Path traversal and arbitrary file write. Authenticated. Well, we're not authenticated, so that's not going to help us. Okay. Never mind. The ping just looked interesting to me. And maybe it is something, but let's do my initial plan. L, and we'll just list it anonymous. Nope. So anonymous access is not allowed, and let's just make note of that. And then we'll dive back into probably our web app. We could check RPC real quick. Let me put this on the other half of my screen. Oh. Geez, it's almost 11 o'clock. We've been on for an hour and 18 minutes. Might just hang on a little bit longer. Haven't really got anywhere on the machine, but we've learned some stuff, and the next time I'm on stream, we'll dive back into it. Okay, notable RPC interfaces. Identifying IP addresses. I know with RPC you can do like some user enumeration if you get access to it. Oh man, I'm getting tired. Okay. Let's think about what we have so far. We have what appears to be a possible LFI. Oh, here's our vhost. And you can see all size 334 and status 400, so vhosts are not the way forward. So we can close that out. Done with that. Derby. This just looks weird. What's going on here? Of course, internet, checkout, redirects, person, master, install redirects to Umbraco. It must be. Oh man, it must be that Umbraco exploit. Clinton Diddy call it comeback. What? I don't get what these random numbers are. Well, shoot, they actually go to a page. Weird. Still goes to different blogs and things like that. Oh, I think it would be helpful to us. I have quite a few of them there. Install, of course, redirects. Internet was nothing, right? There's nothing here. We could run, just show you guys what an active scan looks like. If we take this remote HackTheBox and actively scan this host, we can see if Burp finds anything more interesting for us. We just click view details, issue activity. We have, it found the Flame said this box is mostly red herring. Yeah, dude, that's how most CTFs are. But hey, the goal is to learn something. At least personally, I've learned some stuff. We have this vulnerable JavaScript dependency and the base64 encoded data, which you can notice it found what we already found, this weird S parameter that's base64 encoding stuff. I have a feeling that has to be the way in. I just can't figure out how to actually use it. It seemed overly complex to me. And that's where I think maybe it's not the way, because it's supposedly an easy box. But it is HackTheBox, so that shouldn't surprise me if it's overly complex. This active scan's killing my machine, though. Okay, we're going to stop the active scan because it's slowing down my VM. Okay, here is, I'm about to call it a night, and I want to at least get initial access. So, as I said before, I don't think walkthroughs are cheating, but let's just look at a walkthrough until we're no longer stuck. Don't look. Close your eyes, guys. We're going to scroll down. Okay, so InMap shows a bunch of open ports. We know that. Port 80. There are a few references to Umbraco, a content management system. There's a CSS link, a JavaScript links, and text references, which, we already noticed that. Revealed the admin page, which we found that. I tried some default creds, it didn't make any progress. Some quick research found this authenticated code vulnerability. If I find creds, I'll come back to this. So we followed that same process. FTP is open, allows anonymous access. I connected, but the root is empty. I also tested writing, but didn't have permission. So I followed all the same methodology, which makes me feel happy. SMB, same thing I did. Typical checks on SMB showed no access to any shares. NFS is super uncommon on HackTheBox. Oh, hold up. Did I miss that? Why do I not have that? Oh, I just added an RPC. Maybe that was my mistake. Okay. It may have been the web server actually was not the way in. So we're doing show mount -e, and if we do remote.hackthebox, I think that would work. Ooh, and we have site backups. So NFS is super uncommon for HackTheBox machines, and thus it being open is definitely worth some attention. Show mount will give the paths that can be mounted and who can mount them. In this case, we have site backups, and it's everyone, and then we can mount it. All right. Well, that makes sense. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this to my notes, and I might pause here, and we'll pick up here. I'm going to close this walkthrough for now because I don't want to get any more hints than what we need. And let's make this like that, and we'll go over to this and grab that. Okay, so we have NFS is running 2049, and that does actually seem to be the way in. We're going to mount this site backups, and we'll probably go from there and see what information is there. But guys, it is almost 11 o'clock at night. I should probably go to bed, but do appreciate you guys hanging out with me for this first iteration, first walkthrough of remote. We will dive back into it in my next stream. As far as when I'll be live next, honestly, when I feel like it. If I feel like streaming tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow. But I try to stream at least once, maybe a couple times a week. So I'll be back. Just stay posted to Discord or LinkedIn or Twitch, and I'll be back. And when I'm back on, we will pick up this remote HackTheBox machine. So far, I like it. And we learned some stuff about Umbraco, whatever it's called. Even if that wasn't the way to exploit it, we saw a cool LFI where they were base64 encoding the path for that S variable, which is really neat. Haven't really seen much of that. Hopefully you guys learned some things about pen testing and web apps and Google Map API bug bounty tricks. So although we did not complete the stream in the first, or complete the machine in the first stream, I learned something. Hope you guys did as well. And we will pick this up in the next stream. So thank you guys for hanging out. I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.